It's May, and that means fast times, big jumps, controversy, you name it. We're breaking down day one of the Grand Slam track in Miami. Still not a full house, but better. We're going to see a lot of great performances. We have to touch on Masai Russell, Tia Jones in the hurdles. And also, I want to spend a lot of time discussing some of the things that we saw today at the Diamond League in Shanghai. Lovely Diamond League event there. Not in the official Shanghai Stadium, but it's still there. Rounds up the Diamond League there in China before they move next to Doha. Blazing performance from Cordell Tinch. Akani Simbine clipping Kishane Thompson. Grace Stark bouncing back. A lot of great performances there. And I also want to talk a little bit about Fred Kerley's jail saga. He's in, he's out. What's really going on there? More so from a perspective of why are you getting into this kind of controversy and trouble? But as usual, it's your show too. So drop your comments, your questions, your hot takes. We're going to hang out. We're going to break down a number of events. And if this goes well, we may even stick around for day two in Miami. But you let me know if you want me to do that, or we'll come back live again later on. But I want to talk about what has to be the most brilliant performance yesterday, opening up the Grand Slam track and field event in Miami. That was a statement performance by Tia Jones and Masai Russell. Jones in particular leading almost all the way until the very end there. 12-17, 12-19, era records going, American records going, legal allowable win of 2 meters per second. Kind of raised a little bit of concern for me, but I'll get into that. But the times were really shocking, right? Very close to that Toby Amerson world record we saw some years ago in Oregon, that 12-12 world record. But it's May. May. The World Championships is in Tokyo in September. It's kind of crazy. That's the way I'm looking at it. I find it next level that you'll be running this quickly. And I guess likewise for what we saw with Cordell Tinch there in Shanghai this morning. But before we get to that, when you look at that race, I never liked the angle, obviously, from Grand Slam there. They were showing this on an overhead thing at first. Not quite the angle that I want, but we did get to see the race. The end of it, the athlete's own body language suggested that what just happened, that was the thing. When Masai Russell spoke afterwards, I don't think she recognized how fast she was going. She didn't think that was the case. But when you put this in perspective, it's really, really, really tremendous running there. You're thinking about 12-17, 12-19, those two going up number 2 or number 3 on the all-time lists. I don't know what to say here. Akira Nugent, running well as well, but I'll be honest with you, when I saw this race and it opened the Grand Slam, when I saw it, my first thought was there had to be issues. I was saying to myself, there must be a wind gauge error here, the timing, the gun calibration rather. I just couldn't see it. I just said to myself, this just can't be real in May. Of course, there's no evidence that anything went awry, and the people who operate the timing structure and everything, they're really competent people. I'm not even going there. And I don't want to be too incautious here, but personally, I'd like to see kind of wind readings. I would like to see even the data on the color on the wind gauge, like when they set it up. I know it's 2 meters per second, so you're getting the maximum, but what kind of shape are you really in to be pushing those types of times? That's the question I have. I can't believe it, right? It's just fabulous running there. And to be fair, I'm not questioning. I don't want to question anything. I'm not questioning if there's an error in judgment, if they're doing something, if something went wrong with the equipment. There's no evidence, and I don't want to be frivolous with the way I think about it. As many people know, if you understand how they do these things on the straight, and especially in the 100 meters or the 110 hurdles, they tend to measure the wind for 10 to 13 seconds, and depending on the system that you're using, they'll do it at different intervals. You get a kind of average measurement over that kind of 10-second period or 13-second period if it's a 110 hurdles, and they'll round up the reading to the nearest tenth, and so you can't have this reading going above the 2 meters per second. That's how you get that kind of wind aided thing, and it was clean for them, and I don't think anything went wrong. It's just wild. I mean, we saw a lot of fast races. We would have anticipated that. Usually at that ground, you get a lot of fast times. It's open place, fairly new track that's been laid recently. So when you get some helping wind, you can perform well. Sometimes hurdlers don't necessarily like a lot of wind-aided performances. It throws off the balance. It makes them go quicker to the hurdles, and that's not always what they want to do. But in this case, man, it was ridiculous. I mean, I have to look at it again. I mean, it's just, I watched it a number of times. You look at the feel. When you look at the feel here, it's a high quality. On every given day, you get high quality runners there. Unfortunately, Samba Mayela didn't start, but you had Kenny Harrison there, former world record holder, Akira Nugent, splendid athlete as well. Looking at 12:34, 12:40. Megan Tappa stepping in, the Olympic bronze medalist there from Tokyo, 12:50. So you got some really good times, but the top two way out there. Big PBs there. Not sure what that means for the rest of the season, but they had to be surprised, and I think Masai in particular was surprised that running that fast. I want to thank everybody for joining me. Don't forget to get your thoughts and your comments. Were you surprised? What was the biggest thing for you over these last couple of days of the Grand Slam yesterday? And I was up since 5:30 this morning watching the Shanghai Diamond League. We'll get to that in a second. And if it's your first time on the channel, welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That way you know when we go live. Yeah. Sonia, what's going on? It's good to see you. 12:17 this early. Wow. I'm expecting her to do sub 12 in September. So that's the thing. Interesting. When you see a time like this, especially in the sprints and the work it take, the pounding on the body in particular, you immediately go to the end point of the season, right? And you say, if you're pushing that now, where are the women going to be in a few months' time? Well, more than a few months' time, right? It's 4 months away for the World Championships. I don't know. We've had a few late World Championships. Well, not few, but we had late World Championships in Doha, and the times were great there, right? And it comes down to the preparation. How are you navigating a season like this in terms of getting to the World Championships? Are you going to start late, depending on the athlete you are? What kind of coaching mechanisms are at play, or philosophy about are you going to peak your athletes early, then you draw them back and peak them again? You think about the context of the United States as well, where they are ultra competitive over the sprint hurdles and what that means. There's a Diamond League championships up for grabs. If to get there, whoever wins that will get the bye into Tokyo. In a case like this, Masai is tied to Grand Slam for a few more events, but possibly can get into some Diamond League stuff too. I don't know how it's going to work out, right? The defending champion is Williams from Jamaica, so only another Diamond League winner can come from Jamaica. But I'm riffing here. I'm struggling to think about what type of times we would get a sub 12. I don't know, Sonia. That's up there. We're thinking about perfect conditions. You have to, because this was literally perfect conditions in terms of the allowable win. It's a big chunk to take off. That's 17. To get to sub 12, we're looking at where you find another meter speed from. Not quite sure. And I don't know. I mean, like, it's wild. It's wild. I don't even know what to think about. Like, since we're on it, I think hurdles, as we've always talked about, women's 100-meter hurdles, most competitive thing in all of track and field. Any given night, anyone can win. You look at what we saw in Shanghai today as well. I was really impressed with rather Grace Stark, to come back from that stumble in Shaman where Daniel Williams pipped her at the end, and she came here and she ran a really good time at 12:42. I think there's like sub 12 fours there as well. A very strong performance, very comfortable win over Williams in the end for Stark as well. I think she's getting out of the blocks very well, staying low. Her hurdling is quite clean for at least for the first 5 or 6, I would say. But she moves really fast. And by the time you get to 6 hurdles or so, the balance or the control or that fluidity is not right there. And I'm nitpicking picking here rather. But I think she's flying. So the idea of she has to monitor that. But when you look at that field too, ridiculous. I mean, if we think about I'll try to get it up on that on the screen as well. Let's see if I can get it up. You look at that field, that was ridiculous too, right? 12:42, 12:55. You had a world record holder there. You got a world indoor world record, 2-time indoor champion, world record holder indoors. High quality field as well, and that was an impressive race. I thought running 12:4s in May is also super impressive. Negligible win in terms of a positive direction. I would agree with you that the expectation is to then at some point get to a sub 12. When we saw Amazon a few years ago, and then when she came back and run that 12:06, which was over the allowable limit, you start to think at some point, are we getting to that point, right? And I just don't know. I don't know if she can actually pop a sub 12. I'm finding a hard time thinking about where that extra meter comes from, unless we're saying that she's just not in the shape of her life as yet, which is quite possibly true. And at some point, we'll get to that. We'll see. But yeah, Clip, how you doing? Big up to you. Thanks everyone for coming on and for getting engaged. Your show as usual, but I wanted to start with some high points of yesterday's Grand Slam and today's Diamond League in Shanghai. Hope you guys saw all those results and you watched it and you have good stuff to say about it. All right, since we're staying with the hurdles, let me transition really quickly to the 110 hurdle, since we're in obstacle races right now. Yeah, and do me a favor and smash that like button. The men's hurdles is also a ridiculous run today. So Cordell Tinch, what we're seeing from him is just simply amazing. Honestly, I don't know if he thought he was in a 12.87 shape. I saw the interview after the race, and he said he felt like he was going to be better than a 13.06, but he wasn't thinking he was going to be close to a sub 12.9. I mean, this moves him all the way up on the all-time list of great 110-meter hurdlers. He's in a truly rarefied air. And when you think about his performance last year and not making the U.S. Olympic team, in a way, he must be here thinking that I have to show up You know, I mean, he's delivering this with a level. It was a commanding performance. It's a reminder that he's probably the one to beat the season. That's what he's saying. Obviously, Grant Holloway pulled out of this meet. He seems to be struggling with some injury, and we wish him very well. He's fortunate to have the bye into the World Championships, and so he can manage his season somewhat differently. But 12.87, crazy run. You know? And I suspect, his whole thing is to perform well over the season, but it's still May. Why are we running that time of time in May is just I don't know. Look at that. That was like a fabulous race. We're thinking of, and Murataki there came out well, I thought, and Cordell took him over, clean hurdling. There's a couple mistakes there, but he was looking really well. Broadbell had to come back into it. Parchment, running a 12:30. I think all of these guys, all the way down to even, maybe Eopis there or so, is pretty decent time to be running in May. Thinking about what the season looks like ahead. But man, I don't know. I mean, some of these performances, especially over the hurdles, these 2 days are throwing me for a loop. I can't kind of get my mind around it, right? And what are we supposed to think about? Like, think about 12.87 is Darren Robles' territory. Is now joint with him, joint fourth. So it's only Devon Allen ahead with 12.84 and Grant Holloway 12.81 and Aries Merritt with the world record way back in 2012 at 12.80. It's certainly a statement piece, and if that means he's in a 12.8 shape and he can replicate this over the rest of the season, it's hard pressed to not think about him as a potential gold medal favorite. Right now, he's the man to beat. And no questions about it. And still a long time before we get to this World Championships. And anything can happen. The U.S. national team is hard to make. I suspect he's going to try and be the Diamond League winner, which should give him some reassurances that he'll get into the World Championships in Tokyo. But yeah, fabulous running there from him. Let me get to some comments. I see some of the people on. Sonia saying, I hope she's not peaking this early. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very, very, very interesting thing. You hope not. I don't think so. I think they're surprised at that time. It's unreasonable to be getting an athlete to be in a world record shape at this time of the season. It just doesn't make sense. Like, especially when you're in a world championship year. Siri, what's going on? Those hurdle times in Miramar raise a lot of questions. We all know that Miramar is the real house of wind. It is. And so that's why I said at the top of the hour when I just came on, not the top of the hour, when I started the show, and I used the word I want to be incautious, but I don't want to be too incautious because I don't want to say that the wind gauge was off. I can't say that. I don't have the data for that or anything like that. But, given what we saw even in a few of the other races, even the 100 meters that Jefferson won, Miramar gets a fair amount of wind. Right. So when I saw that 12.17, I was expecting to see a 3.5, something like that. That would have made me feel like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's pretty windy out there. Nothing to be overly concerned about. But when I saw 2.0, it's at the top of the limit, but it also kind of puts into perspective, are they really in that kind of shape? And I don't know, right? As I mentioned, and I'll reiterate it again, the system works. They take I think in this case it's 100 meters, so it's probably a 10-second, because I think in 110 it's 13. And they measure at intervals depending on on the Wingate system they have, and they have to average it out. So it shouldn't go over 2 meters per second. So that's what they're saying. I don't know. I haven't looked at the flags. I haven't seen anything. We it's like, when you can do other things to kind of suspect that, oh, hold on, that may have been a hurricane going on. It really is interesting. So at this moment we have nothing to go by than just from brilliant performances that with maximum allowable win. Now, like you and like many other people, I'm looking at it with a side eye. It's not quite the same feeling you would have from the 1988 run from Flojo there in Indianapolis. There it was kind of clear cut, and there was field events going on at the same time. So this different, I just, we just have to go with it. I think that's what's going to happen unless there is some known thing. I think we would learn more about it if she had broken the world record. Then there would be a lot of tests and checks that you'd have to do, and if there's some anomalies, we'll find out. In this case, I'm not 100% sure there's going to be any real checks. I guess it's an area record, a national record for the United States, so I don't know what the protocol on that is off the top of my head. But if it was a world record, I think, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. The men's 200-meter races in Myanmar are also questionable. Interesting. Let's look at that. So that's won by Jeremy Richards, right? The Trinidadian. Give me some more on why you think it's questionable in terms of what you're trying to get at there, so I could respond to it. I saw Jeremy afterwards, in an interview rather, and he mentioned how he wasn't feeling so well in Jamaica. He was struggling with some illness, and he came back to good performance. I'm trying to get that results up there, but I don't know where it is. I don't like how Grand Slam does their thing. It's but yeah. Let me know what you think about why it's questionable. He said he felt good about it. I don't know. Some 1986 at this point. Probably. Clip says, gotta charge it to the game. Hurdlers tend to run fast without wind or into slight headwinds more often anyways. Yeah, it is, because most hurdlers like to say they prefer still, because that keeps them in check. They don't like anything to throw them off, especially if you're getting pushed over the hurdle quicker. And that's the thing too, like to keep your balance in a situation like that too is not easy. I don't know. Yeah, there are times and distances, well, generally not distances, but there are times that sometimes puts you in a position to make you wonder if everything is working out well. I don't think we would be complaining if it was like a 3 win, or 3.5. We would be just like, okay, super fast. Thanks, Sonia. Yeah, I agree with Sonia here. She's asking kind people to nicely to smash the like button. Anytime I see athletics results from France, Myanmar, Monteverde, Nairobi, and Johannesburg, it just takes them from what they are. Yeah, I get what you're saying. There's some places where you look at the performances. Even Oregon sometimes. You think about super fast times at different moments. I'm not, and oftentimes you have to think about, can athletes replicate in different conditions and at different times of the year. Yeah, we shall see. It's pretty fast times. I suspect we're gonna get some more later on today, and we'll get some more on tomorrow as well. Not much we can do about it. I also, since we're on it, before I switch to the 100 meters from today as well, I was I'm still worried about the attendance at Grand Slam, in the sense that, okay, Miramar is not a huge stadium. What is it, like 5,000 or so capacity? There are points in it where it seems like you had a steady amount of crowd, almost packed in some sections. But there's different sections that you could see that it's still empty. I don't know if it's because it's the first day on a Friday, but you would hope that you would be able to sell out a 3-day weekend on this. That worries me still, and especially in a very small stadium like that. And also, and for sure that the camera team were doing overtime work, because some of those close-ups on athletes when they're passing areas where there weren't people, I think that was designed for us to not see that the stadium was kind of empty. I'm not being critical of the of people not showing up and trying to again harp on Grand Slam, but I have to think that you need to start getting those places sell out and a lot more people in the stands, because active, interested crowd makes a TV spectacle better. I think this one was good because it's a tinier stadium, quite packed, but hopefully, they get sold out crowds later today and potentially tomorrow as well. I want it to work, as I've said before. I still struggle to watch an event this long in terms of the time frame with a lot of dead space. That they have to work on. They're going to start a broadcast at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the first event is going to be like 42 minutes later. I just find that tough, right? To wait and watch, and I don't know why they're doing that. And I know why they're doing that in terms of potentially the cost of you want to get as much television coverage as you can, but there's nothing happening there. So I think that's an area that they have to work on. But we'll see what happens there. Let me see if there's any more comments before I move on. Let's see. The crowd is not encouraging. A lot needs to be done about publicity and ticket affordability. Interesting. Yeah, that's a worrisome thing. And I know it's the first year for them. And a lot of people have been critical of me saying that I've been tough on them. But I think what I'm trying to say, and the point I'm trying to underscore, is if you go out of your way to say you're revolutionizing the sport, which is a hard thing to do, and you're not the first to do this, it's to try this rather. If you only look from the athletic side of things, you say, well, it's a big payday, but a big payday can only be sustained if the product can be sold around the world. Ultimately, most of the money will come from television rights. That's what you want, right? They won't share that data. It's in a lot of countries, so the access to it is there. How much money are those what's the broadcasting rights for this in terms of how much you pay? I can't believe it's a lot. I'll speculate again and say that the costs for Peacock paying for this, or NBC Sports Group, is certainly cheaper than what they paid for the Diamond League. And Flow Sports has the Diamond League now in the United States, but so you need that, but you need bums in seats. You need a lot of fans going, because that's the only way that the spectacle looks good, and it will make you feel like you're missing out if you're not there. And ultimately, to sustain the kind of pay packages that you're saying you're doing, you're gonna have to get a lot of money, and the product has to be consistently good, and that can also be a challenge. But we'll see what they get in Philadelphia. I wouldn't put money that they can get anywhere close to Penn Relay's numbers in Franklin Field. In fact, Franklin Field sometimes is struggling over the last how many years to even get the extreme top row the nosebleeds to have people up there. There's always one or two, little sections of people there. I didn't go to Penn Relays this year, but even last year or 2 years in a row, but if you get the bottom part of Franklin Field filled, then from a TV standpoint, that would be good. You don't even have to really go up high. But I'll struggle. I think they'll struggle to do that. Yeah. So we'll see. Okay, let's turn our attention to the 100 meters. And thank you everybody for joining. Hopefully you're doing well. So we saw an interesting 100 meters in Shanghai today. And Akani Simbine, with a narrow victory over Kishane Thompson, 998 to 999. So 2 guys going sub 10. There's Latsili Tabogo there, kind of rounding in a little bit of shape too as well. He's been saying he's doing a lot of 400 work for how long? 10:03, very early. First of all, congratulations to Simbine. He's been the form athlete over 100 meters. As I said last couple of lives, I do hope he can find a way to come down off of this stellar performance and then, gear up again in time for the World Championships. He's an older guy. He's now considered the elder statesman around, if you want to think about it that way. And if he wants to maintain his sprinting form and be in a good shape to try to get on a medal podium, because he's the nearly guy. He's missed out on numerous occasions of medal podiums. I think they have to structure the season in an interesting way. And in some ways, maybe running a little bit less might be important for Simbine. The Australians, the South African guys are really fast at this time of the year for obvious reasons. But I want to get into this interesting race. First, Thompson's first race of the season. I don't know what to make of it. I think he looked a bit sluggish. He had a decent start. Nothing that concerning. The main question is at the end of the race, which is hard to compare. It's not hard to compare, but I don't know if it's fair to compare what we saw in Paris last year and what we're seeing here. Kind of looks eerily similar, that he'd be leading. Looks as if he's tying up a little bit, mistimed the dip. He's not staying relaxed enough would be my way of looking at it. In that final phase, that relaxation is really crucial because kind of helps to manage the deceleration and enabling him to finish strong. So it looks similar, right? But it's the first race. So when you see the first race, you can't really say much yet. But I don't like it. I wouldn't like the way, and I'm sure Stephen Francis wouldn't like it either. I saw an interview with Thompson afterwards, and he just felt like okay, to get the cobwebs out. I don't think we should read into much of this here. If we get to another month or two when he starts to look much better, I hope he looks much better in a month or two. He still looks a bit big from my perspective. A little bit too muscular, probably will lean out a little bit as the season progresses. It looks better than how he looked at that Myanmar event a couple of weeks ago. But the question is, if he continues to do this and he's not winning by clear margins, will it seep into be a thing, right? And that's a question that we can only answer as we get more races under the belt, when we see other performances. But to start the season, going sub 10, knowing that's going to be a tough season in terms of a long season, his history with injuries as well and how they have to manage him, I don't know if there's much to really dissect. You can dissect, but is it really meaningful is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Let me get back to some comments, and thanks to everybody for popping on here. Let me see where I left off here. Serious, and there should be a diversity in number of athletes invited. Look at the women's 100 meters. Only 2 athletes are not from the United States, Ophelia and Nita. Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm not sure I also think they'll be struggling to get athletes. To be honest with you, I don't know. Well, maybe struggle is a strong word, but they're doing something that steps out of the clock, right? And the calendar. I mean, they signed their racers, obviously, which are people who are tied to Grand Slam, and then there's that interplay or mix of other athletes. I'm wondering if the reliance on in the, especially in the 100 meters for women, if that is a like a marketing driven thing where they're thinking that it will appeal to a wider American audience. I just don't know the answer to those questions, but I could speculate on that. Hey, and thanks everybody for popping on. Sonia is saying, but I do agree with you that maybe other athletes, but as much as they're making it out to be a big deal, it's not a big deal when you compare. It's still, it takes time for the establishment to really feel like this is what they want to be a part of, right? Even with the big money flashing in front of them. Sonia saying Kishane's first race, I don't think we should read too much into it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying in a sense. We can look into certain things, we can see things because you will learn from everything. When in terms of concern, I don't think we can be overly concerned about any kind of things there. It's just that when you look at the last 100 meters that you take a look at would have been in Paris, and then you come back to this, you're like, okay, there's some work to be done at the end, but they have to know this. I think he knows this. Yeah. As you're saying, Kishane is too heavy. I think so, but he probably will lean out as the season progresses. VJ, what's going on? I'm late. LOL, what have you covered? So I've covered a number of things. Masai Russell, we've talked about whether the clock was right. I don't know what else. Cordell Tinch, Grace Stark. Yeah. When you're done on the live, you can always go back and watch it on the rebroadcast, Yeah. So, but good to have you back and so on. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think, but I think healthy Thompson is always a good one. Hopefully, he'll have a stellar season. Again, it's no surprise. I think a lot of people are still surprised that he didn't, win the 100 meters in Paris, and that expectation that he probably should have. He certainly looked like he was in a 9.7 shape at the time, and maybe a mid 9.7. And if he had executed properly, he would. I think if he had executed properly, he would have, at the end, if he was just much more relaxed, he would have won the race. But there's an opportunity to you can't really rewrite an Olympic wrong, with a world championship. But it's an opportunity to get the next biggest title you can get in the sport, and then think about what the next few years might look like. Next year there'll be the new ultimate challenge from world championships. Then you'll end up with another world championship and lead you all the way into the LA Olympics. And you have to be looking in those kind of cycles to lay down a marker. So I think that that's what's going to happen. Prince One, what's going on? I hope the Jamaican athletes will improve. The USA team is really good. Yeah. I guess it depends on where you're talking about in terms of what areas. I like what I see from Jamaica when it comes to long jump, triple jump, really stack. I think you can get I think you can get medals still from the women in triple jump. Shot put you can get possibly. I think Campbell, but it's a tough space. I would say discus is a competitive area as well, but it's very competitive worldwide. And I don't know if the Olympic champion, is thinking more NFL than anything else. And there's cycles as well. I think there is new athletes to come through. I'm waiting to see. I think it's really a cagey season. When you look at the end point of the season and you say the World Championships is in September, then uh, it's hard to kind of gauge or measure where everybody is. Some people are working to make sure they eat on a daily basis. Others are like, we can navigate the space differently. And you get ups and downs. I think you start to get really good competition, especially in the Diamond League. The Diamond League means a lot to this year, as in most years, but in this year in particular, because the Diamond League will wrap up before Tokyo. So if you're in a competitive environment, and in many cases that's like USA athletes, or in some parts the Jamaican athletes as well. Yeah, I think if you're a Jamaican hurdler this year, you have 4 spots, right? So you're happy that Danielle Williams goes through. You don't want her to be taking one of the spots. If you're a Megan Topper, you're like, maybe I can get on a team, right? I don't know, right? I think, yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Uh, where is Elaine Thompson? In Florida, I think. We'll see when we see her. Uh, we'll see. I think she'll be fine. I think Sonia's agreeing. I don't know how fine she'll be, but I think she's in the environment that could work. Yeah. VJ saying that 12:17 was crazy, but considering that they had literally perfect Will Masai running that time, isn't that insane? But definitely it wasn't expected. I still think it's insane though. I mean, it makes me even wonder that I can't. I don't want. I keep saying this. Sometimes somehow I feel like the wind could be even greater than 2.0. But and wind also is not always the best thing for hurdlers. They often complain about that stuff. Uh, yeah, it's wild time, and I think Masai only clipped won it at the end. Yeah, won it at the end. If you look at the progression, I think she did enough to get it done at the end, and kudos to her. I have no, I think she's fabulous. It's a very tough field too. It had so many great her. Akira Nugent probably was wondering what the hell was going on. Yeah, I don't know. We can't even predict the hurdles. No one can predict the hurdles. It's just too competitive. Yeah, I agree, Sonia. People are at different phases in the training, so a lot of athletes will improve, and sad to say some may do too much too early. Yeah, and that's the big challenge. I think, especially when you have to do the pounding, the sprint, there's just no way you can continue that kind of running all season. So it's like when I look at Cordell Tinch today, or I look at especially him today, because that was outrageous. 12:87. He was already in those like low 13s. Are you gonna continue this all season? Like, I mean, are we seeing a once in a lifetime season? Are you going after the world record at some point and still be fresh and ready to go? I don't know. Yeah. The women's triple jump has been on a low key for some time. What do you mean low key? Over the like this season, or I think there's some been good stuff. I mean, we had 15-meter clubs last year as well from Tia Lafon. I think I actually think triple jump is in good space. Ulamar will come back, but Ulamar is the outlier too in terms of what she was doing, right? I mean, she had broken a 29-year-old record when she did. She's the only athlete that, when she's in shape, will always go over 15 meters. But a 15-meter club is a tough club, I think if I'm all, I mean, yes, you'd like to see 15 meters, everybody on a podium, but 14 nines, high 14 eights, I think still really decent and creditable distances to win major championships with. That's how I would look at it. But I don't know if it's I don't know if I agree with that one, to be honest with you. I think there's still good athletes around for for triple jump, to be honest with you. And I I think we'll see some of that this year. we just haven't seen anything yet, right? But I think we'll see some of that stuff this year, and it's still early, right? And we can't ask for these spectacular stuff because if you do these things this early, then the question is like, when are you going to do it again, right? I I, I think if you go back to Nanjing, Perez Hernandez jumps that 1493. I think Tia Lafon will come into shape this year. She was injured. She basically her first event was indoors in China. I expect Ricketts to be there. There's the other Cuban athlete. What's her name? Povea, I think. I expect Ulimar to come back. I do think you'll have at least 5 women capable of going very high 14s into 15 meters. So I'm not too worried about it, to be honest with you. Yeah. I want to go into a lot more performances too. But before I do that, I want to say something that's off the field really quickly before I get back to some more of your performances. I want to talk about Fred Curley. So, as most of you would have seen, Fred Curley was arrested in Florida a couple of days ago. He's now out of, he's no longer in custody. This is the second time he's been arrested in a relatively short period of time. I'm not particularly interested in going into the details of why he's arrested and all that. I'm more concerned about this track record now of seemingly being difficult to even work with now, right? And we can talk about even the way in which he ended the partnership with ASICS. The wearing of a different spike, even though he didn't like the spikes. But there's ways in which you can end relationships and so on. I don't like it. I think there's a responsibility, especially in a sport where, come on, I mean, your earning potential is limited to an extent, right? And he's an athlete that's about to turn 30, if not 30 yet. Why are you getting into this kind of trouble, right? Why are you flirting with the law? What is happening there? And I think this can significantly impact his ability to earn, because brands certainly don't like to be associated with trouble. Sometimes they allow it, depending on the athlete, depending on the sport. Usually it's in other sports where we'll go with this because you're the very best of the best. Fred isn't the very best of the best. He's a very elite athlete. He can, on his day, could be the best at anything he wanted, from 100 to 400. He's that talented, but he's not the face of the sport. He could be if he wanted to, but I don't like it. I think it's bad. I think at some point you could lose, obviously, any kind of partnership deals. Importantly, people can also decline to invitations to meets. They can say, look, if you're a meet director at the Diamond League, and certainly this Grand Slam thing, they're probably going to part ways. I don't know. I can't speculate, but I would suspect that that's a possibility. Your new league, you associate with Fred. You're trying to do something big time, and there's outside interference, right? And I'm being charitable here. I think at this moment, when you look at the record, not necessarily the arrest record, but the other stuff, it's possible that people might refuse to work with you. And so you got to spend some time thinking about this. You need some, I think there's a level of intervention that's necessary. His handling has to be different as well. You have to be circumspect. I think at this moment, I feel the reason why I'm very concerned about it is like, okay, so there's that first altercation that happened and you got arrested. And then in a short period of time, you're getting another one. I feel like you haven't learned anything. I feel even if you felt like you were right on the first occasion or whatever that is, you have to sit down and like, everything has to be structured. I'm not getting into any trouble. I want to show a steely determination. I'm going to showcase that was a blip, that was an anomaly. That's not part of my larger. That's not me. You have to say that's not Fred Curley. And at this point, there's a non-zero probability that he's gonna get into trouble again. And I think that's where his image is coming now. That's where people are thinking about it. And it's gonna hurt him. Because he's still young enough to be in the sport for another few years. Heck, when I saw that 400 meters some weeks ago, I was like, Fred Curley could still drop a 43 seconds if he switched back to the 400 meters. Like that literally was there. So you got to watch out for this. I hope that, people around him, it's going to do some serious introspection and people around him will be telling him like, hey, you got to cut it out. At this point, they need serious image control management. They need consultation. They need a team of people to get him straight. Because I will go back to even last year. I think had he not made that, find his way on that USA national team, which was not straightforward last season, and then find his way back in the Olympics, we would have looked back at what happened in New York when that big bust up with the shoe, and we would say, you see, it's like he's ruined. And I'm worried that he's probably taking these wrong messages that every time something isn't clear, every time he gets away with something in a sense because of whatever behavioral issues or so, that it works out in the end. I still get a medal. I'm on the medal podium or something like that. I think those things are the wrong. You got to learn better lessons from this, and I think it's tough. There's a couple of comments here. Let me see. Fred needs to see anger management expert. He needs to calm down. He should learn to keep his emotions in check. Yeah, you definitely need. At this point, he shouldn't be going out. He shouldn't be going anywhere. I need bodyguard. You need a team. Somebody to just like check him all the time, because it's not. I don't like it. I think it's a problematic situation. VJ saying, yeah, definitely another good look, not just in terms of his character, but also his career as an athlete. Yeah, it is. He's turning 30 soon. He doesn't have a lot more time in the sport. In fact, some people don't last this long, right? It's not. Nothing is given. So he's at this kind of peak moment of maximizing his earning potential. I can't see him at the next Olympics. Like, it's hard to go that far, especially given the competitive nature. Maybe he can. Obviously, I'm not ruling him out. But will he be at his peak coming at the next Olympics? I have no idea. So you have to think about what is there for me in these next few years to rack up some silverware and money and endorsements. Because after that, there's nothing left. You have to think about what you do next and so on. And I don't know what he's done with his money so far. I'm not trying to get into that space. But the life of an athlete, especially a track and field athlete, is very short. And they certainly don't make anywhere close to the kind of money that some other sports make. And he's not. I don't want to be too critical here or anything, because the way I see how I can say this in a good way. He's not the type of athlete that really transcends the sport to make him get all of these massive deals that some, only a few track and field athletes can do. I think on the last live, I talked about athletes earning potential. And most athletes tend to earn most of their money within the sport. There's a few outliers on this. Roger Federer tops the list of making a lot more money outside of tennis, given even tennis's global standing. Bolt, Fraser Price. They don't come into the mix on that graph that I talk about, but you could see that potential there. And so I think I worry about when I see these things happening, especially to someone who potentially could go down as one of the all-time greats. I mean, certainly if he had stuck to the 400 meters, probably would have. But he's that good to go from, can give you a 43, a 9.7. He should be able to give you something really fabulous over 200 meters too. So hopefully he fixes this, Hopefully he fixes this. Vijay says it's becoming a habit. Yeah, I see a lot of people enabling his behavior. Chuck Taught News, he purchased lots of land. Yeah, I'm not saying he's not investing his money well or anything, but I'm just saying, even if you're doing that you never want to put obstacles to what you still can earn, right? You know what I'm saying? Even if you made the best financial decisions and deals, no one is turning down, the cash that you can continue to make. That I actually don't want to get into that part of it. I feel like he has a responsibility not to get into an altercation. That's personally me. Obviously, I'm not in that situation, but I think given what we saw a few months ago, he should be in a space of like, I'm not getting into any more trouble for the next how many years until I can, ride my way out of the sport. Yeah. Vijay says, I agree the blame shouldn't be placed on him alone, but he had far more to lose in comparison. This set him back once again, but hopefully he makes a rebound by the end of the season. Yeah, I think there's self-control that people talk about. And obviously you can be heated in a moment as well, but it's not a good look, right? Definitely not a good look. All right, enough of that. I wish him very well. I think the sport needs his kind of talent, and hopefully he finds a way to get back on the scene. We'll see what we get from there. Lots of more stuff to talk about as well. I thought we got some really good performances again in Shanghai. I want to shout out again to Battle. Oh boy, she's been battling very well these last few weeks. Anavia battle there, winning the 200 meters in 22:38 ahead of Rashidat Adeleke. I was really excited to see Adeleke. I think Adeleke is a special talent, one of those athletes that can give you something very good from 1 all the way up to 4. I'm thinking of her as a really very low 48 athlete too. So, it's not particularly super fast, but 22:3 is really good performance, season best for her. Yeah, it's a decent feel, not excessively great feel, but that Prandini in the mix. There was Henrietta Jega there, the 400-meter runner too. So not bad, not bad. I thought one of the races of the Shanghai meet for me was the women's 800 meters. That was I'll get to that in a second. So sophisticated. 156.64 by Duguma. Brilliant. I'm wondering if she's even running too quick at this moment. Yeah, but it was a really good run from her. I think on a straightaway, she really exerted some dominance. I'm trying to remember the race. And, Sarah Billings, they're running a 157. Nakai 158. Also, Natalia Goul as well, top in 158. A bunch of athletes going 158. It was really good performance there from over 800 meters. 156 at this time of the season. Dugama is a high quality athlete. I think she has a tremendous ability. I think her very low 155s, I think she's capable of, and who knows where that can even go after that. So yeah, that was also a really top performance at the in Shanghai. What's my opinion on Shelly-Ann right now? Not much. I mean, we talked about her on the last live. I spent some time discussing Fraser Price. What is it? She had 2 races, the one at the school where she destroyed the athletes. But then she did show up at that velocity meet a few weeks ago. Nothing to say. I mean, she looked okay. I mean, she came out well. I think she won comfortably. She had to run a little bit, but it's the first race we have seen. That race looked more like testing the foot, the knee rather, because she has those challenges. The way I look at Chilean Fraser Price is that every time she steps on the track, it's another opportunity for us to just save the all-time great over 100 meters. I don't know what we'll get from her. Here's what we know from a track record of Chilean Fraser Price is that when she shows up, she always delivers her best, even when she's not at her best. But we're looking at an athlete in the end part of her career, and she's already won multiple world championships as the oldest athlete. The only Merle Nutti has medal at the Olympics older than Fraser Price. I would love to see her fit, healthy, a final hurrah, but nothing is guaranteed. There's no free space on a team. So if she makes a team, it has to be because she ran hard for it. The thing about Fraser Price is she's had a very successful career. You won't find much better than that. Certainly not over 100. And she's done very well for herself off the field. So this year in particular, it's about picking and choosing, and she doesn't have to race a lot and thinking about September. And if she gets into trying to get to the Jamaica National Championships would be important, getting on the team, and then you see what happens there, right? No, this is a Fraser Price that is, we'll see her in a few weeks too, I think. In China, is it in China? Yeah, at World Relay. So I don't know what to expect. The only statement I've always said about the great ones is the great ones should never really stick around when they're no longer on top of the world, because you get people coming up who idolize you, who look up to you, and they beat you, and in your prime they probably couldn't. But for Fraser Price, it hasn't really been that case. My line is always, can you beat her? Yeah, it happens once in a while. Can you get her off a medal podium? That's something that up until last year, which you didn't, whatever that debacle happened in entering the warm-up area and the stadium in Paris, was the first time she didn't really battle it for a medal. So if she's capable of getting on podiums, then I don't think I'm not quite sure, how to process that. I think she can continue as long as she wants, but at some point the question is like, what's the motivation, right? It takes something special. It takes a ultra competitiveness. She's the nicest person with a smile, but she's a downright killer, right? Like and I mean it in a good way, right? She will take your lunch money. That's how she rolls. There's nothing that pleases her more than destroying everybody. So, and I think she probably takes pride at being an elder stateswoman and still whipping a few. So we'll probably see her in that World Relays, I believe, coming up soon. And I don't know what we get there, or what we can judge from there. But I want her to be healthy. I want to see her in a couple of Diamond League races, and I see what she can do. I think it's the onus is on the Jamaican athletes coming through, to retire her, right? That's a sign of progress. If you can say the big three has to move on, right? If they allow the big three to continue to be in the mix, then there is issues there in terms of progress. But we'll have to see. Let me get back to some of these comments. Opinion of Shericka Jackson. Not much. I think it was good to see Shericka Jackson last week in Xiamen. And we saw her a couple weeks before that over 300 meters when Alfred won. She had an injury that curtailed the season last year. She has a bye in the 200 meters at the World Championships. As long as she's healthy and they can work it out right, I think she'll go to the World Championships in the best shape as possible to defend her title. We'll see. It's that one race. She didn't win the race last week. I don't put much into it yet. I think if it's just the first time back there, you got to test stuff out. If you get to July-ish and she's not running consistent sub-22s, then you can get concerned about prospects of defending that title or even getting on a medal podium in Tokyo. But it's way too early to figure that out. PJ says, yeah, hopefully Anavia can hold this form and improve come US trials. Her making both teams is going to be a big task. It is. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of women there. Yeah, but she's been battling well this season and doing well. Sophisticated Shelley running world. Yeah, she is. I didn't see that. I mentioned that in my previous remarks. Shelley looked like she was running off some rust in that first race. She wasn't really smooth in her phases, but I'm not particularly worried when it comes to her. That's from VJ. Yeah, I agree. First, the queen of the track does what she wants. The whole world watched a sports day race. It was everywhere, right? This is the kind of transcending the sport argument we talk about. Yeah. Agreed. Hopefully, Shelley will remain healthy. Yeah. Sophisticated one says, hope Shericka stays healthy and if it is in immaculate form. What about Simbine? Do you think he can stay till September and the podium this time? I did touch on this earlier. My fear for Akani Simbine is it's going to be a nearly guy again. And a nicer guy you won't really find in track and field. Simbine, he's really been there for a while. He's been running for a lot of years, running consistently fast for quite a number of years. Here's the thing. Because of how their season had structured, you anticipated that you'll get good running from the South Africans, the Australians. Kicked off his Diamond League season. He's been running. I think he's undefeated, if I'm not mistaken. Now, the question is, what does the rest of the season look like? At some point, they gotta pick and choose, right? He's not running super fast times, right? So it's not like he's cracking some 9.8s or so. So he's in and around those 9.9s. So I think it's okay, right? But he's not a spring chicken, right? I think a lot to think about recovery, how much the body can take. And then you get to that point where I think if you're a Simbine, you should think World Championships, just because this is a shot. It's never going to be easy. I don't even think if he's in the best shape of his life, he'll get on the podium, right? Like there's no guarantee he'll get on the podium. Let me put it that way. Because there's a lot of guys that are coming. All right. So management would be the name of the game for Akani Simbine. That would give him in all the opportunities to get on the podium. That's how I would think about it. Yeah. Because it would be great to see him there, just for like a fairy tale. But that's not how sports work. You got to get on it. What do you think about Noah being low-key this season? Seems he's not really focusing heavy on the 100 meters. Do you think Paris pushed him too far and why he may not do as well this year. I don't know what he's up to. I think he's fine. He's getting in magazines. I think I saw some social media stuff. Probably planning a wedding. He's fine in the sense that he has double buys into the World Championships. He's not short for money. And when you're in that kind of position, you can pick and choose. You can delay when you start your season. And I think he's just thinking about probably trying to defend those titles. I think that's the goal they would be thinking. They would look at the clock, the calendar rather, and they'll back the program from September, when is it? 13th, 10th, or whatever, right back up to the start. We saw him over 400 meters recently. He huffed and puffed a little bit, but he hadn't run a 400 meters for a long time. You don't have to run those, but a lot of people like to look at what that might look like. I think he's fine. Look, if he can wait, I think we'll start seeing more of these athletes relatively soon. But he can pick and choose a few races. I think his pockets are very deep in terms of his relationship to Adidas and so on. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like Simbine is peaking in his 30s so far. 2024 was his best season so far, and he just beat Usain sub 10 record. Hopefully, he can find the podium. It's an achievement to go how many years in a row going sub 10. It's kind of interesting stats. I don't know what it means, right? Like in the broader scheme of things, outside of that, this is a guy who has consistently run really fast, and the benchmark for running fast in the sport of track and field is going sub 10. And he's done over a long period of time. That's one marker. It suggests there's a longevity there of the athlete. There's other measures, and more important measures is the ability to get the big medals and get on a podium if you can't win a gold medal. And for him, it's been challenging. He's had a good start to the season. He went to the World Championships indoors, and that was new to him, and he walked away with something. Athletes can actually perform very well late if you're injury-free in particular, if you haven't had any major setbacks. And the management. I'm just saying the management I'm talking about it's a very long season. So do all you can, not just to run at every meet. I remember, when was it? It was in the Oregon World Championship that year when Omanyala was just running every race. It was at everything. And I'm like, at some point, when the World Championships comes around, your body won't be able to give you those bang, great performances over a 2-day period, So that's what I would say when it comes to Simbine, but we'll see. Wayne, what's going on? Simbine is just ahead in the season now. It's still early. Yeah, it is. It's because of the how their championships are structured. I actually think he's just phasing out, right? He will decline a little bit, and they'll bring him back in time for the World Championships later. They have to. He can't continue. They prepared early. The Australians were the same, so that's how I'm thinking about it. Sophisticated. True, didn't think of it this way. Now relaxing his body and just doing enough so far to keep him fit. By doing 400, it seems he's focused on 200 since he lost last year. Yeah, here's the thing. We've talked about this over the years on the channel. I think All in the Game likes to point this out too. Noah hasn't really run faster than 19.5 when he's done the double, right? So that's a big thing. For Noah to run 100 meters took a lot. And in the years he's done that, he hasn't really run super, super fast over the 200 meters. The continuation of doubling can be challenging to win, especially in an environment where I think like Seletsili Toboga is gonna step up in big ways, right? He's the guy to beat over 200 meters. I think he's going to dominate for years to come. We haven't seen the same for an Arian Knighton. Still questionable based on what we saw last year. He's capable, obviously. He's still young. But no, in particular, if you to win the 100 meters is not particularly easy. So you see, when you try to do these things, to do the double, doing the double is not an easy thing. It's not something that every athlete can do all the time, right? And be guaranteed that you pull it off. It's the great ones, your Carl Lewis, your Usain Bolts, you name it. And not every athlete always doubles every year, right? I kind of feel like if he's going to try to end the cycle on getting a gold medal in a 200 meters at a home Olympics, they have to pick and choose how they run to. And maybe one year you don't double. I don't know what Lance will do there. He's obviously very competent and thinking about that. But it's hard to think that it could be really possible that one of the great exponent over 200 meters may end their career without a gold medal. And the same could happen to even Shericka Jackson on the women's side, which would be, it's tough, to see that could happen. So I don't know what's happening there. I think Noah's improved immensely over the 100 meters. A lot of it is the execution at the start is much better. But the work you put in and then to come back around and deliver on 200 meters is tough. And Toboga is forcing you to come to a major championship probably in sub 19-4 shape. Do you need it? I don't know if you need those times, but you have to be prepared to get out there. And Kung Fu Kenny is not joking around either. So we'll see. Sophisticated. Well, didn't think of it. You didn't consider that what it does to the body. I wonder if Toboga is gonna be okay doubling this year. His 100 meters shaping up nicely. I think Toboga is fine. I honestly think I've said this a number of times. I do understand why athletes always try to get in the 100 meters, right? The 100 meters is the thing, right? It's the marquee event, the blue ribbon. I think Toboga should do 2-4. I think he would be devastating over it. It would be amazing over 400 meters if he decided to focus on that. But do you want to do that kind of work? It's not easy. I mean, it's the same like we said. I mean, I think if Usain Bolt had focused on the 400 too, you probably in 42 seconds. It's just different kind of work. The rewards. Let's Sealy has still a lot to learn over running the 100 meters in an execution phase. But when he gets it right, I mean, I think he'll be a 9-7 guy, but it has to be executed right. There's much more things he can do over 200 meters. And I think he'll run really fast there and continue to do so if he stays injury free. Yeah, I think their background training is to build him up big time, but we'll see what we get. I think 200 meters is going to be a fabulous space in years to come. Emergence of other athletes, your gouts and maybe another few cycles. I don't know. Ooh, interesting stuff. Sophisticated. So I forgot about Kenny's doing okay in GST this year. Good call, and Tobago doing 2-4. He probably feel more at home there. Yeah, it's just that the work to do it is. I've never seen an athlete say they would raise their hand to come to do a 400 meter program. It's tough, It's all the athletes. If you see the interviews, they talk about it. It's gruesome. It's hard work. And the rewards aren't the same, right? Like, everybody, if you're the fastest man in the world title is what everyone is after. It comes with a lot of notoriety or exposure, rather. So we'll see. We're going to get some good stuff. Hopefully we get some good stuff today at Grand Slam. What else? I love when we get all the comments in as well. I plan to talk about some other stuff too. I don't even know what else. 400-meter hurdles today I thought was pretty good in Shanghai. We got a 47-28 world lead by Warholm. I thought Warholm looked good over 300 meters, similar to how he did that world best last week over 300-meter hurdles. I'm still seeing some of the similar challenges for Karsten. And as he ages, I wonder why the strategy doesn't change somewhat, but maybe they don't change. Because Warholm beats you by going out really hard and extremely hard in the 400-meter hurdles. He forces you to do things that sometimes throw you off. And finally, last year, obviously, Rai Benjamin delivered. And so we can't say anything about Rai anymore. But still really a tough space where we're looking for Rai, we're looking for Warholm, still we're looking for Dos Santos, who is on the Grand Slam circuit. We saw him last night, looking pretty decent too as well, going sub 48. I'm very saddened to see that Roshawn Clarke couldn't finish the race, and I wish him very well and a speedy recovery. But Warholm looked really clean up to 300. Then he was struggling a little bit, but it's very early season. But 47.2 in May, can't complain about that. I think if he had hurdled clean, I would probably a little bit lower, maybe a 47.10 or so. I don't know if he had sub 47 in his legs today, and I would be worried if you're running like 46 at this time of the season. And so they got to match that as well. It's a little bit disappointed with Karen McMaster, but I don't know if he was struggling with anything either, but still very early season there. Steeplechase was decent, kind of a change of the guard last week in terms of Sime running and beating Sherman as well. So, interesting stuff there from the Ethiopians. And yeah, let's see if there's any more. What's going on? Objectivity. I just got a notification. Yeah, I've been on for an hour and change. Luckily, you can probably catch up afterwards if you feel inclined. Let me get back to some of these things here. Sophisticated one is saying, what's your opinion on Coleman this season? People have been saying he's working on acceleration instead of block start. I don't know what he's working on, to be honest with you. I'm just saying that I think it's just nothing to speak about yet, right? You have to remember, and you know this, that Coleman, the only person from the United States has a guaranteed spot at the World Championship is Noah Lyles. So everybody else have to make the team, and there's really no need to be running super fast right now. He looked okay. He doesn't look good, but I don't really think there's anything to really judge. To be honest with you, yeah. I think he'll be fine with his start. He's just the best at it. It's the speed, it's the maintaining of the speed. Like once he gets up to top speed, can he maintain that stuff? And I think that's the kind of work that they have to do. I mean, I don't know. It's like the ground contact time when you look at it is kind of, I don't know. I haven't really analyzed this stuff, but I don't want to get technical or anything. That's also out of my depth sometimes, but I have a sense of it. But I think he'll be fine. Yeah, we'll see where he lands. Sophisticated one. Didn't Tinch almost break the world record? I wonder if Holloway will come back and dominate. He seems off lately. So first, Holloway was injured. I think he has some issues from indoors. And last week he didn't look good, and then he pulled out of this meet. So hopefully they can sort it out, and it's nothing too serious. If it's something that they can manage, luckily he'll walk into the World Championships and not worry about it. He's a little bit off the world record, Tinch, that is. The world record is 1280 Aries Merrick 2012. But he just moved fourth all time to join Darren Robles, the great Cuban. He just moved ahead of Lu Zhang. So he's in rarefied air with that time. So there's a 1284 ahead of him from Devon Allen and a 1281 and from Holloway and the 1280 world record. I was very shocked, as I mentioned at the top, to see that kind of performance, but he's been running beautifully well. I'm worried about running that kind of time now and having to sustain a good season because he still has to make the US team, which should come easily for him if he can stay in good shape and not pick up any niggles and he's not fatigued. I think he's running with I think he probably trained really well this off season. He probably did everything he can because he ran such a fabulous time last year and didn't make it, right? And so the US championships are hard to get onto that national team. So we'll see. I don't know where we'll get to where it'll go. Yeah. Objectivity said, I have some theories about Coleman, but too many people will come at me, so I'll only share them with my family. Well, we're all family here, objectivity. You know. Maybe you have to private chat me to see if it's good to get up on the channel. But anyway, oh yeah, so you're also I've been a young fan since 2022. I'm trying to learn. So welcome. I mean, 2022 you started to be a fan of track and field. Wow. Appreciate you hanging on. Luckily, you grew up in an era where you can probably watch everything and you can go back and see a lot of stuff from the 80s, the 90s, 60s too. I would recommend getting into some track and field books and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I think Grand Slam track will start soon. I think it's gonna start at 5:40 something. They'll start the coverage at 5 o'clock, I think. But I'm not. There's gonna be a lot of talking there. Let's see. Anything else that we missed from today? Oh yeah, Mondo. We gotta talk about Mondo Duplantis today. I want to talk a little bit about pole vault. I'm liking what I'm seeing all season from Karila. So again, Karailos there, for the Greek athlete, going over 6 meters, did a 6:01. So he now is consistently a 6 meter jumper, and I love it. I've been saying for a while that we need more guys edging closer to 6 meters. I know no one will ever challenge Mondo, but the more we get guys flirting with the 6 meter range, it's interesting. Mondo struggled a little bit on the 6:01 jump, but he cleared it. He was moving over to his left, I think, or right from the vantage point. Had to make some adjustments, but he cleared it. He cleared at 6:11. Then he went for the world record again. Last week, he didn't clear 6 meters at all in Xiamen, but they had just arrived in China. And so we can't complain. He broke the world record indoors. The dude is just outrageous. So, but I'm just watching the space. Curtis Marshall there. So, Vloon did a 582. But I like what I'm seeing there from that. The triple jump was decent. Last week, Scott won, and this week, Pedro Pichar came back 1703, 17 meters flat for Scott, who I hope will get some sponsorship because he was jumping in Jamaica colors. That means he has no sponsors. So, maybe he can get a kit gear from somebody, hopefully. And Zango was there too, but he hasn't been jumping super well, 16 meters. So even indoors, he wasn't that good this year. So we'll have to wait and see. But it's still early season. 400 meters was decent. Personal best for Christopher Bailey. We saw Quincy Hall coming back. First race of the season. First time since Paris. Finished dead last in 45.99, but he had some setbacks, so this was more of a run out for him. The Botswana guys are always good over 400 meters. Enduri, they're giving a 44:32. Kibanet Shepi also in 44:63. So their 4x4 team will be good again, as usual. You stick, let's see, the Toboga on that. Karani James running a 44:9, Doom 45:35. So, but Bailey's been running super well this year. Hopefully, he's edging closer and closer to that sub 44 time. I'm cautious about running that fast, even 43 seconds in May when you want to get to September, but I'm sure they'll handle that in some interesting ways. Yeah. Chase Jackson, as usual, doing very well. 20:54. She's the only athlete that got over 20 meters in a shot put. Jessica Schilder, 1977. And a surprise for me was to see Fanny Roos ahead of Sierra Mitten today in the top 3. So I like what we're seeing there. Women's shot put is really stacked. There's a bunch of athletes that's not there as well. So yeah. And I think 2 meters 2 for Yaroslava 2. And there's Olisegus there and Eleanor Patterson. So good jumping quality as well, just to do a quick recap on that. I think we had a good discus throw too. I think Valerie Alman, if I remember, I was watching that on a separate stream too, gave us like a 70-meter throw, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember the exact time. I'm looking for it. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff that will happen later on. Let me get back to some more comments here. What did I miss? You've been rooting for Tinch to see 2 seasons now. Hopefully he'll make the team and not peak soon. Yeah, I think he should make the team this year, but you never know. Yeah. Objectivity say he missed the goal in a year of you saying, well, yeah, he can, at least he can watch it in HD. It's Hank from the Warm Welcome Track Deck. I'm eager to learn and keep watching your show. Thanks. Yeah, I've been watching you since Paris. Oh, very cool. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Thanks for saying that. Objectivity. Sophisticated said, I just learned of who Asafa Powell is due to drama and learn about Donovan Bailey and Bolt. Had no clue you and Leon Blake was a legend. Yeah, you should get Bailey's. Let me see if I can find it for you here. I mean, I don't have any allegiance, but the Donovan Bailey Undisputed book, pretty good book. It's a great night in 1996 after all those false starts and Linford Christie lying on the track and whatever. Yeah. So yeah, you should check that out. That's a good read. And yeah, I think the sport is a lovely sport. Really appreciate you saying all of that. The Asafa, I discussed the Asafa Paul drama last week in the sense that, I mean, it's all over the Jamaican space. I don't know if I add anything new except for I wanted to separate from what Asafa was saying, but mostly about thinking about, especially if you're a small country with limited resources, like what is the thing that you would want to do to help athletes transition? Where do they need the support the most, right? It's usually at that kind of formative stages. I think you want to invest in grassroots track and field, coaching improvement I was talking about, which is something I think even in Jamaican context, they've done very, very well with their kind of partnerships with the sports school there, GC Foster. And, you want that kind of stuff. I would say more synthetic tracks and around the country would be important, and more resources and things like that, which is expensive to have, especially if you're limited or you're cash poor or something like that. And then I think the biggest challenge for athletes usually is when they make that decision to transition from junior to senior. That is the hardest thing to do. So that's why most people still go through a collegiate system, which I still advocate. That could be challenging in years to come with the kind of ever-changing landscape of college in the United States, and you got to take my class on sports for that. But I don't want to kind of ramble off on that stuff. And I still advocate people thinking about getting an education first, or along with the athletics. And you could be a superstar and still do the college and structure it. I like the Veronica Campbell model. She had always built in making sure she would have gotten an education, whether she left early, and she did leave early, and so on. Importantly, I think that transition is difficult. So whether you decide to go pro right away, or do you even go to college, or not in between from college to pro. Usually the college guys have it a little bit easier if they are good enough to get some kind of a sponsorship or so. But ultimately it's kind of a professional model, which is difficult. You got, in many ways, it goes through a club to club system. You got to hire a coach, you got to have medical things, you got to have food, that stuff. And some countries help to identify high performance athletes and help them to transition into becoming a professional athlete. I think once you get to the professional ranks and you could try to earn a living if you can, the large majority of that should be up to you to figure out how to sustain a life. Now, track and field is a poor person's sport when you compare it to association football, NFL, NBA, you name it, right? So you will never get the kind of money that athletes in those, or regular athletes or average athletes in those sports get. So you have to be like a super outlier to really command big paydays, which is usually big paydays off the track in terms of endorsement deals and so on. I think sports is a business ultimately, and also it's a decision to get into it. And yeah, a lot of track and field, because of the Olympic sport nature of it, is tied to national competition. So you have the Olympics, your World Championships. So people often think that you're entitled to get things, which is, I understand it, but it's not easy. So to just get these kind of payouts. And so you see athletes struggling all over. We saw that athlete last year, what is his name? The hurdler that worked at Walmart. Is it Beard or so? And he had no sponsorship. Now he's doing better. He still works at Walmart, but less hours. So the sport is a challenging sport. You can make some money, but it's not, is it life changing? It depends on where you are or where you're coming from and how you manage that stuff. And, Diamond League, not Diamond League, but Grand Slam is out there saying they're trying to change that. I hope it works. I have said what I have to say about that. World Athletics coming on with another kind of end of season thing next year. So there's some different opportunities. That's going to be in Budapest, and is it Budapest? Yeah. And opportunities to earn money. So we'll see. But ultimately, what the sports need, if you're going to make a lot of money, is some level of innovation. That I've always said that veterans of the sport who like or watch the sport may not like, but I'm okay with it. We need innovation. But you need a casual observer. The biggest way to improve track and field and the earning potential for the athletes is to ensure that what I call a casual observer, the people who get jazzed up every 4 years around an Olympics, you have to siphon off a portion of those people to become real dedicated fans of the sport that will move rocks just to watch a clip. And if you can do that, then you can get that kind of eyes and attention, and you have to kind of penetrate the big markets, particularly the United States. Then the earning potential will be better, right? And so there's some interesting things that needs to be done. I've said it on a number of occasions that I think the governing body, I think SEBCO's leadership when it comes to marketing the sport has been lacking in some interesting ways. And I thought when he came after Diak, there would be a much more athlete-centered focus to move the sport in bigger markets and so on. And it's been slow. I'm not saying they haven't tried, but it's not been innovative enough for my liking. But anyway. We'll see. Objectivity says, I've said a lot on other channels regarding Asafa's situation, and it's short. He was not advocating for the athletes. He was complaining about what he didn't get from Jamaica. Two separate. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah. I think ultimately you need structure and systems in place for talent pools to transition away into professional realms. And it's not, you can learn from individual athletes, but it's something much more broader, holistic in nature. Anyway, guys, it was really my pleasure hanging out with you guys for these last hour and 40 something minutes. I am gonna probably call it. I think we probably didn't touch on everything we wanted to touch on. I'm, gonna get myself a little bit more some refreshment, and I'm gonna watch a little bit of the Grand Slam track that's probably gonna start relatively soon. I'll try to be back tonight for a live, but if not, I'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the weekend on the track and field that we've seen this week. So it's been my pleasure. You guys take it easy, and we'll talk soon. Bye bye.